Okay, hello, we are Parental. I'm Claire.
And I am Marcus.
And today we are talking about loneliness.
So lonely. No, I'm not. I shouldn't take the mick because there's a lot of lonely people out there, and I used to be one of them.
There is, and I did actually just check some stats quickly. Young adults aged 16 to 25 disproportionately affected, with 72% saying loneliness negatively impacts their mental health.
Wow.
That's really, really sad.
Do you know what though? That's. I mean, I hate to say it, I hate to be that old guy, but that's social media, isn't it? Like when we were 16 to 25, we were out seeing our friends. You were out and about.
I don't think just social media. I think an online life generally. Yeah, life being lived online more in a social way, I think is probably affecting them. But
and how expensive everything is to actually go out and see people now.
Yes, and the lack of social things that there are to do for young people. Also, 1 in 4 adults, so 24%, report feeling lonely, often, always, or some of the time.
Wow, 1 in 4.
So I do think it's a big issue, but the reason that we're speaking about it today, my suggestion of talking about loneliness was because all of a sudden, at the age of 41, I have started to feel a bit lonely, and it's really strange because it's never affected me before. I genuinely can't report ever really feeling like that before in my life. And it's kind of strange to me that all of a sudden at this age, I have started to feel a bit lonely. It's not strange because there's been a series of things over the years that I think now I'm realising have led me to feel this way. I just thought it'd be interesting to discuss.
Why do you feel lonely now and not before?
I think we've talked about me being autistic and being really highly masked, and I had a very busy, full life, really, really young children. Even as a single mum, I didn't feel loneliness, I wouldn't say. I was so busy. I was working a lot, bringing up the children on my own. I didn't really have the time to feel lonely, and I felt very content with just it being me and them. I've got more people in my life now. I've had another child, I'm married, and I have felt more loneliness, and I think trying to be as unmasked and authentic as I possibly can in all areas of my life has led me to being a very different person to the one that I was before when I didn't feel lonely. And I think there's a real need, I feel this need within me to feel understood by other people who are similar to me. So I think it's almost like a feeling of not being understood generally, and therefore the world feels a little bit like a lonely place.
So do you think actually since you have found yourself, you're more lonely?
Yeah, I think so, because I do feel a little bit more isolated in terms of like, I understand now that social interactions are really difficult for me, and I have one friend who I don't want to rely on too much because, that would be weird. No, I have lots of other people in my life that I do rely on and that I converse with and like I would express my feelings to. It's a lack of wanting to sort of put on people too much, feeling you don't want to feel like a burden to people and be telling people your problems all the time. But I think a lack of people in my life who I would necessarily meet at this stage in my life, and realising who I am now, I don't go out and find those people because I find it difficult. I find them online a lot. That's why I like to be active online and post online, because I really get this beautiful interaction and connection with people that are similar to me, maybe late diagnosed autistic people that I feel understood by.
I think what's interesting is you're talking about obviously going on this journey of finding yourself, and all of a sudden you're lonely. I think there's a lot of people out there that can probably relate to that, as they, like you say, they might realise that they're neurodivergent later in life, or that they've been masking their whole life as something to fit in, and now all of a sudden they want to be comfortable in their own skin and do their own thing, and all of a sudden their usual friends can't relate to them as much.
Yeah, I think it's important to find new people.
But obviously your life,
the
older you get, the more responsibilities you get, the less time you've got to go out and meet new people or find new friends. And, social media takes a lot of flack, but actually I do feel like you've made a lot of wonderful connections on social media, and probably has helped you with your loneliness.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really hard to find friends later in life. It's almost, it would be perceived as really strange if you were trying to go up to someone and make friends. I think it would just be a bit weird because everyone's got their friendship groups and they've got their little social circle already.
Yeah, but I think that perception's also very toxic because I actually think loads of people are very welcoming to new people, but they just no one is, because it's that fear, that anxiety that we're all riddled with.
Yeah, it's an assumption, isn't it, that might not actually be correct. Like I did make, when we lived where we used to live, me and the other one neurodivergent mum, that we spotted each other across the way and we made friends, and we actually did get together and socialise and have the children together. And
like I did with, Artie met her friend at the soft play and I became friends with her dad, and he's wacky and led a very different life, and we'd have never been friends but for our kids, but we do have a lot of connections. He's the reason I've got an allotment here now. And this is the thing, is actually I think we all need to be more open to being friends with random people. And I know that sounds odd in itself, but you never know where you're going to make a friend. And actually in later life, as you kind of grow and change and learn about what your needs are and who you are, I think you can be more specific about your boundaries and who you want to be friends with, and only let in those that you do connect with. But I think actually you can spot your people. As you get older, you very quickly can pattern spot who's going to be your pal. Within 3 or 4 sentences of someone speaking now, I'm like, he's my guy, or I ain't going to be going around town with him. So I think as you get older, you can, but you've just got to be more open to making friends and open to the fact that you might meet any day you might meet someone who's going to be a friend for life. Like if everyone could be a bit more open to that, I do feel like we'd have a much less lonely society.
Yeah, because those statistics have shocked me, actually. 1 in 4 adults feeling that way. So I know it's not just me, and I do think, like you say, people that you meet in your 20s might not be the people that you relate to in the same way in your 40s. So maybe you do need to be more open to making friends, because you can have loads of friends and still feel lonely. I say I've got no friends. I've got lots of people that are in my support network that I could reach out to. But it's about making new friends that I feel really connected to in this new version of me, in this new understanding of me.
And all of those, that support network, they know you for all these years, but the new you that's kind of blossoming now, or maybe the old you that is coming through and finally being able to be on the surface, it's also quite difficult for the people because they have to adjust and fight, so actually for your current friends, it can be quite jarring when you change or you go on this journey. And, I think what happens in some relationships and friendships is you come back round and becomes friends again later life when you might take a break for a while. Like I've got friends who I don't speak to for years, and you chat to them and you very much, again, same thing, within a few sentences, you're like, well, no, they're still not necessarily someone I'm going to be hanging around with again. Or you're like, oh my God, we're going to reconnect. We've now got this newfound love, the same thing, so breaking off or distancing yourself from people for a little bit isn't always such a negative thing. And sometimes you'll come back round and spend time with those people again. But I think loneliness, it's almost a bit of a state of mind, isn't it, as well? And actually finding yourself and finding who you are, as much as it can create a period of loneliness, is so much more important moving forward to have genuine, authentic relationships with people.
Yeah, I think it's different to be surrounded by people, like we just touched on, be surrounded by people or have loads of friends but still feel lonely, but have maybe 1 or 2 friends and not feel lonely because they're your people. They're your people and you feel more understood by them. And I think there have been loads of situations in the last couple of years, as I've discovered, on jobs, like when I go about to acting jobs or modelling jobs, I really connect with those people, and I actually genuinely think they would turn into friends if I had more time with them. But you might go on a job that's just a day or just 2 days, and it's kind of, you've got a job to do, so you don't have as much downtime to actually get to know somebody, and you might then live thousands of hundreds of miles apart, because that's the way that industry works, is bringing together people from all over the country. So it's not then practical to actually have them in your life in a real way. But I think for me, like I touched on before, the online space has enabled me to find, fair enough, they're online friends, they're online relationships, that I have these connections with people when I just chat to them in the comments or message each other. That can actually be enough, and I do think it's really useful, and social media gets a bad rep, but for me as a neurodivergent person who finds real life connections really hard and not enjoyable, let's face it, put me in a room and I'll hate it, even if those people are my people.
Put you in a room with people. Not just put you in a room and
yeah,
hate
by
it.
myself, I'd be happy.
Oh,
No,
this
put me
is
in a
nice.
room with people, even if I like those people. I don't, and it's weird because I say I'm lonely, but I don't actually want more friends. I don't want to go and meet up with people. That's not what I want. I want more connection, and that connection doesn't have to be in real life.
You've hit the nail on the head there. The word is connection, and that goes down to that you're talking
authentic
about.
connection.
I've got all of these friends, I've got all these people around me, but how many of those people are you actually connected to? How many of those people, when you walk in a room, clock that your mood is different to how it was yesterday, and they come over like, are you okay? How many people understand where you're at instantly? Because that's what a connection is, you know, like being able to pattern spot how someone else is feeling means you're on a level with them. You know, you hear these terminologies all the time. It's like, oh, I'm on a level, you know, and actually different people will get that connection from different people. It's not like one person is a really, you know, it's all about, it's a bit wanky, but it's all about energy, isn't it? And the energy you're giving off. And if someone's looking to receive that level of energy, then you'll connect to them. But some people might be in their own world, and actually that doesn't mean you wouldn't connect to them on another day. And that's the thing with the jobs you're talking about. You're both going into this creative environment. You're all giving off this vibe of we're doing something creative today. And that's a wonderful energy. And often you'll connect through that energy. And I think, unfortunately, in society at the moment, there's a lot of negative energy about with the current climate of how... Oh, your phone's ringing.
It does say suspected spam. As long as it's not one of the schools, then we don't need to answer it. It's fine.
Yeah. So, you know, it's all about that energy. It's all about that connection. And if you can find, like you say, one or two people that you connect with, like Dan Ashman for me, like I won't see him for years or whatever, but as soon as we walk in a room, that hug is immense, do you know, because we lived together for a little bit, and like that. I remember, as I say, the first time I met him, he was wearing a skirt, and I was like some chav who'd just gone to drama school, and I was just like, what's this guy doing in this? And he ended up being one of my best friends in the world, because I learned to grow up. And as I say, that's what's talking about, you'll come and go. Like, he was at a different journey than I was at that point. I was an arsehole, and eventually, but he didn't judge me, and eventually I became a nice guy, and we came together and became friends. So you've got to be open to being friends with everyone. Again, old me would have never thought I could be friends with someone like Dan, and he's one of the most wonderful people in the world. So it's about, again, for me, loneliness is a state of mind, but equally, you know, you've almost got you get out what you've put in a little bit with it. And unfortunately, that means sometimes you do have to try and find people, or you do have to, and if that means going online
in an alternative way. Yeah. And I think especially neurodivergent people love being online because they find that easier to connect with people, and that medium easier to connect with people. And what I've noticed is that I've modeled that behavior that I've realized the connection that I gain when I go out to creative work places. So like when I go to an acting or modeling job, I'm connecting with those people because they're of, you know, a similar mindset to me, and we're creative and we're just similar people. So if I put myself creatively out there online, which I have started to do, those connections come back to me in terms of those creative people who are also putting themselves out there creatively connect with me. So I think you do have to make an effort to change those feelings. Is, you know, if you sat there going like, oh, I'm so lonely, and you're not doing anything about it, then that's what I've realized recently. It's like, right, okay, I've noticed that I'm feeling this way, and I said it to you a couple of times, haven't I? Right, what is it that I need to do about it? I do actually need to make an effort to make more connections. And I looked through my phone and I tried to notice who has texted me first, how often it is that these people are texting me first. They're trying to connect with me first. And I thought, actually, am I making any effort? And similarly, online, there's lots of people that are trying to connect with me because they're commenting on my videos, or they're sending me a message, or they're sending me a video they think I might like. Wow, they're making an effort to connect with me. I'd never looked at it like that before. So I realised my perspective is massively off, and my energy is off. So I need to make an effort to change that. And actually, oh my goodness, it's happened so quickly, and it's not been a lot of effort for me. It really hasn't, because it is online, because it is, you know, over text or whatever. I've not had to change my lifestyle drastically to mean that I don't feel as lonely. I've just had to change my attitude, my perception, and a little bit of energy goes a long way to connecting with somebody.
100%. And that is the essence of you get out what you put in. And those people who are putting that into you, it's important that you receive that energy.
Yeah.
Because they're like, here's good energy. If you bat that away.
I've not even noticed it though. It's not that I was batting away. I just didn't notice it.
No, but even still, not batting it away, ignoring it or not noticing it means you never get to experience that energy. You never get to absorb that energy. But just to change the angle of things a little bit, just talking about loneliness, and this is, going to more of a darker time in our relationship. There was times where you spoke about feeling lonely in this relationship. And I think there'll be a lot of couples out there that feel lonely in their relationship. Now, what did that look like to you? And let's just be open and honest, and like, you can slag me off and, be direct, because we've come a long way in our relationship and I've made a lot of steps to improve myself as a husband. And, so be honest, like what was I doing to make you feel lonely?
I think you can feel lonely in a marriage if someone isn't noticing your feelings, or someone isn't finding the connection with you that you seek. And that might not necessarily be their fault at all. It might be something that you are projecting or that you're causing. It's not always somebody's fault, the other person's fault. I remember when I was having therapy, it was quite a long time ago now, but I haven't forgotten what that person said to me. It's actually a really innate human need. Every child grows up with it, this feeling of needing to feel understood. Feeling understood is an innate human need. And so I think if you're not feeling understood in your relationship, your intentions are being misunderstood, or, your feelings aren't being understood, that really feels lonely. That feels like a lonely place.
So, like, that's the point, really, isn't it? That the physical presence of someone doesn't negate loneliness.
No.
And actually, even more, it could exacerbate that loneliness. The person being there and them not seeing you or hearing you or validating your feelings and making you feel noticed and being able to soothe you, it makes you feel very alone.
Yeah, and the phrase of feeling seen, people would use a lot, I think, in that context. Feeling seen means to feel understood, and just somebody saying to you, that was really hard for you. Like if I've gone through a kind of a really emotional stage with one of the children and they're struggling and I'm having to support them, you not noticing that then makes me feel lonely between me and you, because you're just not understanding what I'm going through in those moments. And just simply you coming to me and being like, oh, God, that was really heavy. Oh, wow, let's get you some hummus and crisps. It's like you're understanding that I'm struggling and I need something to help me.
And a foot massage.
Pick me up, and a foot massage, and a back massage, and then another foot massage. All of the things. But that's the thing. So what would you say? My next question you sort of just answered was like, well, how did I make you feel less lonely? But you sort of answered that there by just validating what you're going through. So obviously you're saying you're feeling lonely at the moment. Is that anything to do with us? No, not at all. I think that's a wider issue when I'm noticing that I've not necessarily got the connections outside of our relationship in my life that I'm feeling like I'm all of a sudden needing. And like I touched on at the beginning, I haven't ever felt like I've needed that. I've never had this big, I didn't do NCT classes and have this big network of bringing up my children together with other people. And I never felt like I needed it. I just didn't. And then all of a sudden, there have been situations recently that are happening that are new to me or challenging to me. And I've thought to myself, God, it would be really nice to have other women going through that, other mums going through that I know. And I thought, I don't have that to lean on.
Did you ever feel lonely as a kid?
Not really. I don't think so.
I did. And that's what in therapy lately I've realised is, and you may have suffered this, your kids may be suffering from this, but like I was always so worried about what my mum and dad were having to deal with, whether it's financial issues, whatever issues they had going on at the time. I would not share any of my issues with them. Everything was cool. Don't worry about me, mum and dad. Everything's fine, because I didn't want to burden them with my issues.
Well, clearly that's still happening. Those statistics demonstrate that young people are still feeling that way. So.
Well, again, it can appear in many forms, because I also felt lonely in the fact that I had friends, but I I hung around with them because they let me in many cases. In some areas, not necessarily my school friends, but when I was at home, the people I hung around with on my street were a little bit older than me, only like 1 or 2 years or whatever. But I never really felt a connection to them at that time. I'm actually more connected to one of them now as an adult, really. But I felt lonely. I'd go out and I'd sit with them on the street and they'd take the piss out of me. And, you know, I would then tell lies to try and get their credits with them. But then they would out my lies and embarrass me and call me a Billy Bullshitter. And then I'd just feel like an absolute pleb.
So there's a lack of connection with those people and not feeling understood by them.
Inadequate is a big thing. Actually, for me, that's what makes me feel lonely is people, and it's not other people's job to make me feel adequate. That's my own thing. But actually, for me as a teenager, I felt inadequate around my peers and then felt very lonely because I didn't feel like anyone really cared about me that much. But they probably did, but that was they probably actually, even though they were having banter with me, they probably really did care about me.
Well, and you didn't feel like they understood you.
No,
I think it's that understanding thing, isn't it?
And then I would mask or portray something else that wasn't me, and then they'd hate that
Be
part of me.
confused.
And I'm like, that's not even me. Oh my God.
Growing up as a neurodivergent.
Yeah. And then
it can be lonely.
Oh, 100%. And then I'd protect my parents by not sharing any of these issues, or actually I'm feeling like this. And my mum and dad were wise, and in hindsight I'd known they'd have been able to help, but I didn't want to burden them with more worries. And so therefore, as a teenager, I was then very alone. And then obviously after my mum died and I lived in London, I was very alone. But what I did then was actually, I did go and make friends. Like I put a thing on Gumtree. Who remembers Gumtree? To like, oh, I'm a goalkeeper. Does anyone need a goalkeeper? And everybody needed a goalkeeper at that point. So I ended up making friends, Simon, who then became my landlord. And that's the point of when you go out and you make friends with these people, you never know where it's going to lead you or what it's going to go to. And actually for me, I learned that either I sat and, especially when I was in London on my own, I either live there and be lonely, or I somehow go out and I make friends and
or stay in and make friends online now. I think there's other ways, but I think how
that
many
wasn't an option. Actually, no, do you know what it was? I used to go in chat rooms. I was banging to all the chat rooms. That's another thing. Actually, back in the day, ASL, age, sex, location, and you'd find out and you'd be like, well, did you not used to do that?
No.
That was like MSN for the age group just below us. But I used to go in chat rooms and it was like a thing. And it was actually, I'd foster, oh my God, I did used to foster amazing connections with people
never
online.
A thing for me.
I remember posting my picture, my school picture to someone because you couldn't put your picture up online back then. And like a little letter and stuff. And then we started speaking on the phone we were speaking on the phone before that. Yeah. So I'd fostered this relationship and then they were like, oh, send us a picture. They got my picture through God. And then they never spoke to me again.
Safeguarding. We're not
safeguarding. I was 15 and they were 15 and we would like.
Yeah, but how did you know? You didn't know that?
ASL.
They could have been a fully grown adult.
No, but I was speaking to them on the phone.
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean,
you
even
can tell.
so,
And
we're not advocating for that in any way, shape, or form. That's a funny story, but it's not good
back
advice.
In the day, MSN, chat rooms. Anyway, but you are advocating for that. You're saying foster relationships online. That's exactly the same thing, except for now there's pictures and videos of everyone.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with that. Really,
but it was worse. It's worse now. Than
I
don't
think we should invalidate. I think there are a lot of people. Obviously, if there are young people feeling lonely, and I think
and they want to go in a chat room,
they can't. No, babe, stop.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But back then, though, that was everything that you're saying to do now. That was it. Like that was it then. Like I was a lonely guy, sat at home, and I actually made friends with other people and spoke about football and music and whatever. And that was healthy for me.
Well, fair enough. And then there will be people, teenagers specifically, even neurodivergent teenagers that find it impossible, like me, to go out and in real life make friends. That online space could be something that they utilise to make friends, and it shouldn't always be frowned upon.
You just frowned upon me.
No, I'm laughing at because it's you, but because that was funny. That was a funny situation.
I mean, if I was some like weird guy like trying to meet teenagers on chat rooms now, that would be weird. But I was a teenager.
No, I know. So I'm using that as an example to just think if there are teenagers, just like I'm saying I'm doing, is that fostering those connections online. Don't frown upon it because actually, if your teenager is in crisis and they're stuck in their bedroom and they're gaming all the time.
That's not necessarily a crisis, gaming all the time, by the way. That was just...
No, I was going to go on to say, actually, I have had teenagers in that situation and I didn't frown upon it because I understood that actually it was a bit of a lifeline for them at that moment. And don't panic and think that this is their life forever, because they might just be really struggling and that's all they're capable of at this time. That's all they're capable of.
It's probably a sign that they need to be checked in with and,
absolutely.
and given alternatives. We were talking about therapy in the last podcast. Like, you know, if you do notice that about your kid, you know, like what...
A lot needs to happen alongside that, of course.
How can you, you know, encourage them to come out of that in their own way?
For me, just personal experience, I was that safe person, and I modelled going out with them myself. So like, they, you know, if there wasn't loads of friends there that they could go and socialise with, like I was that person, and I showed them, you know, social interactions in terms of going into a coffee shop or going into a shop or going to a shopping centre, and just really starting small but trying to get them back out into the world baby step by baby step. And then that often gives them a bit more of a platform to feel safer in those environments. So yeah, I'm not a therapist. It's just kind of the way that I went through that process. But also that person can be feeling very lonely.
Yeah, and even the kids that you don't think are feeling lonely, like you should still be doing that with anyway, because actually, if you can foster a little relationship with your kid where you are nipping to a coffee shop, or you're going out for, you know, having a little date day where you go for a meal together, and, you know, you might have more than one kid, so you could individualize it, and, you know, you're giving them their time and a bit of space if they want to open up.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even about going to them, right, let's open up, kids. It's just giving them a safe space. Be a safe space for them in case they do want to.
And I also, something that we both did in those moments and still do, and I heard people talk about, was entering into their world, to stop expecting teenagers who are struggling or people who feel lonely to step into your world and do things that you would do. It's about going, right, their world is in this room and in this gaming world. I'll step into it. We used to game with the children, didn't we, when they were struggling? If that was all they were capable of doing, I'd be like, cool, right, let's set an hour and I'll play Fortnite with you, or I'll play Minecraft with you, and you'd have a laugh and they'd laugh at how terrible you are, and you're just going into their world.
Laugh at how terrible you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, me.
That's true. So you're stepping into their world a little bit, and that makes them feel like it's a less lonely place, I think, because you're
100%
enjoying it with them.
Yeah. And just, again, I just reiterate that, like, just, unfortunately, my parents didn't give me a safe space to open up, because I chose to, you know, withhold that information, and, you know, try not to like judge yourself as parents if your kids are doing that, because my mum and dad were mint, and they tried to get me to open up, and eventually they did. As I got older, as I kind of grew up to like 15, 16, I did start to confide in them, and then when they gave me really positive, judgment-free advice, I then would open up more and more and more and more. So eventually I did become less lonely with my parents, and I did start to open up to them, and it changed my life. But they were never pushy, and they were always judgment free. And that, you know, we speak about my parents, you know, we didn't get everything right, but they allowed me to be me. And that, being a neurodivergent, undiagnosed at the time, crazy dude, you know, the fact that they didn't judge me or try and make me conform. In fact, they encouraged me not to conform. They encouraged me to do that. Meant I did feel less lonely and more like, oh my God, okay, my mum and dad want me to be me. And like, yeah, you know, go to drama school, go to London, chase the dream, like forget an actual proper education, even though we want you to be a barrister. Forget that, forget it. Oh, forget it. But go and do that. And it was like, that made me feel the least lonely ever. When I went to them, I was like, look, my drama teacher thinks I should apply for drama schools, you know, and not go to university. The fact that the way they reacted and was just like, do it, because that's what they were. Like, that was oh, wow. It makes me realize how not lonely I was at that stage of my life. And, you know, I always talk about 16 to 17 was the happiest stage of my life. It's because I knew I could always turn to them with anything at that point. You know, I didn't speak to them about girls or anything until I was that age. And I'm like, oh, I've got a girlfriend. And they'd be like, oh, be careful doing this. Don't do this. Don't do that. And actually, you know, I think it's really important for parents to just let their kids come to them. But, you know, I think vicariously we've hit on it here. It's like, be there. Don't pry.
Actively be there.
Just actively be there and create a safe space. And when the time comes, they'll open up.
Because I think what we've realised is that loneliness looks really different. I don't think anybody outwardly would look at me in my life or me online or whatever and think that I would feel that way. So you don't know who's feeling that way. And clearly, there's 25% of adults. No, that was 25% of 24% of children.
No, 24% of
report
adults.
Feeling lonely. Oh no, that's adults. Yeah.
24% of adults. So 1 in 4 adults reports feeling lonely often.
Oh, and young adults, 16-25, disproportionately affected.
72%.
72%. So
wow. 72% of young people.
Loneliness doesn't have a look. Loneliness doesn't look like anything. It is just a real feeling within people.
Do you know what you said that at the beginning though? Look at that. It's linked. Loneliness is linked to over 871,000 deaths annually. So loneliness is linked to almost a million
Unaliving,
deaths
I'm presuming
a year.
that's that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So almost 1 million deaths a year are attributed to loneliness. So let's
not presume that it's not happening, because genuinely, until I had this feeling really quite recently, loneliness would never be something that I would ever have thought of. I wouldn't have presumed it was a lot of people's problem. I didn't feel like I saw it. I didn't feel like I heard it talked about very often. But actually, we're realizing it is a huge problem. And I think once it happens to you and you have that feeling, you realize how much it can affect actually your well-being generally.
I think everybody now, if you imagine 1 in 4 people feels lonely, look around you, there's, whether you're on a train, whether you're at home,
That's one person in your family of 4.
Yeah. So can you check in with people? Can you check in with yourself? Can you check in with your kids? And again, it's not about necessarily saying, are you feeling lonely? It's just, can you just check up on them and say like, are you getting on? Oh, is everything all right? And just gauge them and ask that question and look at how they're reacting. And, it's not, very rarely do people tell you the truth about these things.
Yeah, and we were talking about connection in the middle there. So like connect with people, because then that helps them feel less lonely. So text them or comment on their video, or it's all connection, isn't it?
Of course, and energy. And as I say, like if you're, especially for your kids as a parent, just make sure you're a positive, safe energy around them. Not like, because there's so many parents panic, and when they panic, they go, "Tell me what's wrong. Tell me we do it. It happens." Like but the sentence "what's wrong" in itself is a negative, because you're saying something isn't okay, and actually what you mean is, are you feeling all right? Is everything okay? Because actually that's a much kinder way of asking that question. When you say what's wrong, you almost, my brow furrows instantly, and it's like, oh, and we must fix this problem. And actually these problems aren't just a quick fix. It's actually just, when you jump out of a plane, you have a parachute. When you jump onto your bed, you fall back and there's a soft cushioning, and what you are as a parent or a friend or a brother or a sister, whatever, you need to be that cushion for them to feel relaxed, that if they fall back, you're going to be there to absorb it. You aren't going to necessarily be able to pick them back up again, but you can at least just be there for them as that cushion.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time people aren't seeking advice, or they're not seeking anyone to fix their problems. They just want to feel like someone's there in it with them.
Yeah, well, it's like this morning we were having that conversation, like for you, like, we were able to talk it out or whatever, but it wasn't necessarily like, this is the quick fix. It's just like, this is how I feel. It's like, and that's okay to feel that way. That's sad. Okay, now I feel a little better that's okay, and it's just...
Yeah, it's just letting someone express themselves is enough.
Yeah.
And you have to foster a connection first. So text that person back, reach out to them, ask how they are. Let's all feel a little bit less lonely. So thank you for listening. I'm done now. I'm really hungry.
And that's the end of the podcast then. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.